In December 2018, 3 months into his first term, President Emmerson Mnangagwa operationalized the act that saw the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission beginning its work in earnest. A lot of flack, however, has been directed at the NPRC. Why and who is this beast? I am Guthrie Munyuki and welcome to Vantage. Tonight on the program, we are joined by Mr. Obert Gutu, former Deputy Minister in the 2009-2013 Government of National Unity, renowned lawyer, and of course, the NPRC spokesman. Mr. Gutu, welcome to the program, Vantage.
Thank you for having me, Guthrie. Good evening, viewers and listeners.
Great. Mr. Gutu, a lot has been said about NPRC, but the summation has been that a lot has been said because people don't understand who the NPRC is or are. Who are you?
The National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, with the acronym NPRC, is a constitutional commission. It is one of the, what we call Chapter 12 independent constitutional commissions that were created by the national law of the land, the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, created in terms of Section 232 and also Section 233 of the supreme law of the land. So we are one of 5 independent commissions. The other 4 independent commissions, Guthrie, are ZEC, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, the Zimbabwe Gender Commission, the Zimbabwe Media Commission, and the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. So we are one of 5 babies created by the supreme law of the land as independent constitutional commissions. Basically, our mandate, as I'll go to explain further, maybe in the next segment, is to be a peace-building constitutional commission. Put in very simple parlance, in very simple language, Guthrie, we are a peace-building commission, a commission that has several mandates clearly set out in Section 252 of the Constitution, almost about 10 or so clearly defined mandates. Peace building, issues to do with national healing, reconciliation, issues to do with even preempting the resolution of conflicts, to say you don't have to wait for a conflict to happen. You can actually have to put mechanisms that will preempt the happening of conflicts. And unfortunately, when a conflict or conflicts happen, then you put in mechanisms to resolve conflicts, to bring reconciliation between the aggrieved party and whoever is, I don't want to use the word perpetrator, there we use the word the adversely mentioned person, so that at the end of the day, where there are conflicts, we are there to ensure that if conflicts happen, then people heal. And that where we see conflict is about to happen, we put in mechanisms to prevent a conflict from actually getting or coming into existence.
Most Zimbabweans, they say what they know is the NPRC headquartered in Harare.
Oh, yes.
Have you devolved?
Oh, yes, we have. I'm happy that you've asked me that question. We are devolving. We are very excited about that. Decentralizing. The head office is here in the capital city, in Harare. That's where the head office of the NPRC is located. We have an office in Bulawayo, which has more than 20 or so, plus or minus 20 officials manning that office. We are planning to have another office in Gwanda, because right now the Bulawayo office is actually catering for the western provinces. It's catering for Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, Matabeleland South Province, Matabeleland North Province. But the idea is actually to have an office, and this is in the pipeline, an office to cover Matabeleland South in Gwanda, which is the provincial capital, an office to cover Matabeleland North in Lupane, which is the provincial capital. We are also in existence. We have an office in Mutare, covering the eastern province, Manicaland and Masvingo province. We also have an office in Chinhoyi, covering the Northern Province, Marsh West and parts of Marsh Central. We have an office in Gweru. The whole idea is, with time and funds permitting, to have the NPRC devolve not only to provincial capitals, but down to the districts, so that out of the 57 or so districts in Zimbabwe, the ideal situation where we are driving towards, Guthrie, is to have an NPRC physical presence in each and every one of Zimbabwe's 57 or 58 districts.
That sounds like a beast. So perhaps in my introduction I could have been correct saying that you are a beast.
Okay.
Are you happy with the work undertaken thus far?
Yeah, I'm actually very excited about the work, because when you look at it, Guthrie, the first commission was sworn into office in 2016. And as you rightly pointed out, the National Peace and Reconciliation Act was only promulgated actually in February 2018. So there was a gap in the sense that from 2016, when the first commission was sworn into office, up until February or so 2018, there was no enabling act of parliament to operationalize the activities of the NPRC. So basically the only legal mechanism that was in existence between that period was the national constitution. There was no act of parliament, there was no statutory instrument to regulate how the NPRC was going to operate. So I should actually want to take this opportunity, Guthrie, to thank the commissioners of the first commission, to say these are ladies and gentlemen who were sworn into office when the NPRC was just a baby birthed from the constitution of Zimbabwe, but without any enabling act. They started work when the NPRC had even no physical structure, like an office, like this beautiful studio we are in here. No, not even a chair, not even a desk, nothing. So I think these are actually the unsung heroes of the commission, to say these are men and women who were sworn into office. Straight from there, you don't even know where you're going to be operating from. But they worked up until such a stage where we now have physical offices, where we actually have not only offices at the head office, but offices in 5 or so parts or regions of Zimbabwe, which I think is something that is worthy of commendation. So yes, I'm happy that there's been that growth from 2016. I'm also happy that when you look at what we have done, we have carried out so many activities in peace building. Where there are conflicts, only in the previous year, we had our teams in Mutoko. I was one of the...
We'll come back to that.
Okay, thank you.
You are watching Vantage. Please don't go away. We are taking a short break. We will be back. Welcome back. Mr. Gutu.
Yes, Guthrie.
Before we went for the break, you were talking about how you have devolved and how happy you were.
Yes.
With the progress that has been made thus far.
Yes.
I would also want to ask you, most people, when they hear of the NPRC, they tend to rush and focus on, physical fights. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to tell us exactly what your work entails as the NPRC.
Guthrie, our work, as I said earlier on, is clearly cut out for us in terms of Section 252 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. That section gives us about 10 functions. Like I said, the first one is to work on peace building, to ensure that where there are conflicts, and conflicts are not just, as in physical conflicts, as in people fighting or people, burning each other's houses or what. Conflicts can also be emotional conflicts. You're talking of conflict in the broad sense. We are also mandated to ensure that we put in mechanisms to deal with issues of healing, national healing. You just look at the name of the commission itself. This is the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. To say you're talking of peace and reconciliation, so that where there are situations where people were not reconciled, or were at conflict or in conflict, it's one of the core duties of the commission to ensure that there is reconciliation. So that if you and me had a conflict or were fighting yesterday, and the NPRC gets involved between you and me, the main function will be to create peace between Guthrie and Gutu, so that at the end of the day, we are reconciled. Because the whole idea is, if you don't reconcile, you might have peace, but what are you going to do about those situations where already there was a conflict? You want to address those conflicts and ensure that in future, wherever possible, it's one of our functions, preempt conflicts from happening. You don't have to wait for conflicts to happen. You have to put in mechanisms, and we have various departments. We actually, as I explained further, we have 7 thematic committees. We have a thematic committee that is specifically mandated to do with issues of, complaints handling and investigations, which I chair. If you say, Guthrie comes to the NPRC and says, my neighbor has been doing this, or this community, the neighboring village have been driving their cattle onto my fields, and my fields have been destroyed. We are now not living in peace. Or so and so is now digging for gold on my farm, and there is conflict now because we are no longer living in peace because they are destroying the environment and etc. etc. We get involved to ensure that there is not only peace, but where there has been conflict or an upheaval, there has to be reconciliation. So I can go on and on because it will really need more time for us to explain. But in a nutshell, and for the benefit of the viewers, I want them to appreciate that the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission is a peace-building commission. Our core business is about building peace. I would say that is what is most important for viewers to appreciate. We are there to ensure that if there are issues out there in the communities, they might be in the communities where people live, they might be even in the workplace, they might be at schools, they might be at colleges, at universities, in the farming areas, anywhere you can think of. We are there as a constitutional commission to help and facilitate the peace-building mechanisms of Zimbabwe, and also to ensure that we also do research. We just don't wait for conflicts, like I said. We have a particular thematic committee that is specifically geared towards research and knowledge management, to say, okay, what are the most common drivers of conflict? And obviously, you look at, region by region or area by area, to say maybe the main drivers of conflict in Harare Metropolitan, for instance, are not necessarily the main drivers of conflict in Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, or are not the main drivers of conflict in Midlands Province or in Manicaland. So we have these people headed by Commissioner Dr. Donald, who are there just to ensure that they research, they have to document, to say, we don't have to wait. We are not reactive. We are proactive. So that's why we have these kind of committees. I'll mention the other thematic committees, so that we have those 7 committees acting as as the engine of a vehicle, where you have the brakes, you have the fuel filter, you have the oil filter, everything is working to have the vehicle move.
I'll have to cut you short.
Okay.
You are proactive.
Yes. Yes.
2023 elections,
yes,
they are looming large.
Yes.
Every time when we go for elections, there are people, and it's a large cross-section of Zimbabweans,
yes,
who feel that there is always apprehension. There are others who feel that there is fear. And there are others who have their pulses racing. What mechanisms have you put in place to make sure that we break this cycle of violence whenever we hold elections in Zimbabwe?
We actually have come up with an election strategy. This election strategy is a strategy that has been well thought out, well researched. It's not just like coming from bottom top. These are strategies that are implemented after sending our teams of technocrats, because we have a secretariat composed of highly skilled and experienced technocrats, who then help work with us at policy level as the commissioners to compile this election strategy. The election strategy speaks to issues of saying, for instance, we are already in the season, I think, of 2023 campaigns. So the issue now is to say we don't have to wait for there to be an incident of violence in Mbare or in Epworth or in Mfakos or in Makokova for us to to then say, so what are we going to do? We have come up with a strategy that speaks to those areas where we feel that how can we have a peaceful election? So the strategy is designed to say, okay, we are a peace-building commission, Catherine. And as peace builders, what kind of strategy should we adopt to manage an election season? And I'm happy that our election strategy speaks to what I would like to call the strategies of saying, how then can we preempt violence? In most cases, we're talking of physical violence. There's also emotional violence, but I think what you're referring to really is physical violence, where people, as they campaign, they end up fighting, injuring each other, in some cases even unfortunately killing each other, or destroying property, or doing anything that has the effect of disturbing the peace. So we have that strategy that clearly sets out the mechanisms that we are putting in place. I really can't go into the nitty-gritties of it. I'll just try to highlight it's a strategy of more than 100 pages. It will need me to get 2 hours to unpack it.
That's okay. So
yes.
We don't want to preempt.
Yes.
So because we don't want to preempt, we wait for the next segment.
Yes.
But for now, we'll take a break. Please don't go away. You're watching Vantage. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome back to the final segment of this week's Vantage. If you have just joined us, we have in the studio tonight Mr. Obert Gutu, the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission spokesperson. Mr. Gutu.
Yes, Elsie.
When we went for the break,
yes,
we were talking about the strategies that we have,
yes,
in relation to political violence ahead of Texas elections.
Yes.
There are people who are saying that the political parties, particularly the dominant political parties, they continue to get away with it. What mechanisms do you have that would make sure these guys, they'll abide by what you are promoting, peace, ahead of the 2023 election? Do they have a pledge? What is it that you have?
Yes, we are actually, as one of our key deliverables for this election season that I think we're already in, working on what we call the peace pledge. This is a peace pledge that will actually apply to all political players, particularly the political parties that intend to participate in the 2023 harmonized elections. If you remember, Guthrie, in 2018, there was actually a national peace pledge that was signed by the majority of the parties, especially those parties that had presidential candidates in the 2018 harmonized elections. It was a huge, grand occasion that was held, if I remember well, at the Harare International Conference Center in Harare, and it was signed by most of the major political parties in this country. So this time we are working on a similar kind of pledge, but we would want to make it bigger and better. Why I'm saying bigger and better is to say we actually have teams that are now working within the commission. In fact, the whole commission is geared towards that, to say we are looking at a national peace pledge that should speak to the nation's desire to have peaceful elections. That should speak to the nation's desire to have elections where winners celebrate with respect and losers accept defeat with dignity. So that at the end of the day, we should appreciate as Zimbabweans that an election is exactly what it is. It is an election. There's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. And the moment that we appreciate that we can actually have an election where there are losers and winners, but the aftermath of which is not violent, will build a peaceful Zimbabwe. If you look at even what I would call our mission statement, as the NPRC, as the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, we are aiming to have a Zimbabwe, to build a Zimbabwe, a peaceful Zimbabwe for all generations. And the generation that is supposed to be doing that is this generation. We don't want a Zimbabwe that is 25 years from now is on fire. 3 years from now is on fire. That's why we're talking of a peaceful Zimbabwe for all generations. It's important. Why? Because we want in that election strategy to have, particularly the political players, to understand that it is just a context. This is not a situation where you say it's a do or die situation where I have to win, and if I don't win, then there will be war. We should appreciate that it's just like a football match. I know you support Guthrie, that team that has been losing all the time, Manchester United. But it doesn't mean that if they lose, you have to declare war on Arsenal, which normally beats your team. So I'm just using that as an example to say we want a situation where people appreciate that an election is just a race. It's not a war, it's a wonder. And the moment that we have that election strategy and also the National Peace Pledge speaking to that, I believe that the political players who are going to watch this program would appreciate that as the NPRC, we're just there to ensure that politicians, okay, do your campaigning, do it peacefully, do your activities, do them peacefully. When you go for elections, make sure the elections are peaceful. And when results are announced, make sure either the celebration is peaceful, because you don't want to celebrate to say I've won and you start saying very hateful things to the person who they've lost the election, or you celebrate in such a way that instead of celebrating in peace, you are creating conflict by maybe, even resorting to physical violence as a way of celebrating. You want to celebrate, like I said, with dignity. And even the person who they've lost should also be able to concede defeat with dignity. So these are some of the issues that we think the National Peace Pledge will speak to say, this is our country, all of us. It doesn't matter whether you are a member of Party A, Party B, or Party C, or Party X, or Party Y, or Party Z. We are all Zimbabweans. When we win, we are winning together. And when we lose, we are losing together.
So 2018
yes,
was a success.
Yes.
Do we have that kind of buy-in? I'm sure you have already started consultations.
Yes.
Do you have that kind of buy-in that we saw in 2018 from the political parties?
Yeah, I believe we're getting it. These are early days. I do not want to be too overly optimistic. Neither do I want to be overly pessimistic. But I believe we're getting there, because already, like I said, we are working on that. We are 7 thematic committees. I think it's important that I explain for the benefit of the viewers. The 7 thematic committees of the Commission. I've talked of the Complaints Handling, Investigations and Legal Services Committee, which we call CHIL, that I chair. There is also the Research and Knowledge Management Thematic Committee. I've already mentioned Commissioner Dr. Due. There is the Healing, Reconciliation and Rehabilitation Thematic Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Lillian Jugwedere. There is the Human Resources, Administration and Finance Thematic Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Dr. Josephine Shambare. There is the Resource Mobilization Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Dr. Golden Chegenyere. There is this huge, what I will call maybe the engine room of the Commission. Conflict management, etc., CPMRT, that's a long acronym, which is chaired by Commissioner Dr. Tinashe Rukuni. There is also the Victim Support and Gender Thematic Committee, VSGD, which is chaired by Commissioner Noma Kwere. So each and every one of those thematic committees are not operating in silos. We operate like I gave the example of an engine. To say every part of an engine has got a purpose. There are the spark plugs, there's the block, there are the pistons, everything, the gearbox, the accelerator, everything works to make the vehicle, locomote, to make it move. So those 7 thematic committees are there to make the engine of the NPRC tick and move.
Great.
Okay.
When you're enjoying the discussion,
yes,
there's always that enemy.
Time.
That is very decisive. Time.
Okay.
I would like to thank you, Mr. Gutu, for having made time to come and be with us on tonight's show.
Thank you very much for having me once again.
Sure. The late Oliver Mtukudzi remains interred in March Central at the family's rural home. but his works still live, such as Ngoromera. Ngoromera harina zvarinoshanda. Zuva nezuva hachitonge matare echibhakira, hachina zvachinoshanda, hachingabatsirei. I am Catherine Munyuki. Good night.